book, your slides should be a billboard, not a document. How many of you have ever seen cluttered, busy, wordy, boring slides in your presentations? Slides like you're seeing on the screen. Does that inspire you? When you see slides like this, it doesn't tell a story. Our slides should be a visual representation of our messages. They should tell that story. What we're here over the next hour to do is to share with you some strategies that you can use to be able to improve your visual storytelling so that you're more effective with your slide design and presentation in future presentations. Now, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you're joining us from. My name is David Ogden, and I'm going to be serving as one of your co-hosts for this webinar. I'm very glad that all of you are joining us. Also joining me is Kevin. Kevin, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey everybody, this is Kevin Karshnick, and David, I'm excited to be co-teaching this session with you, and I want to welcome all our guests. We've got over 150 people that have registered for us. I started scanning through some of those company logos. We've got some folks, I can't name them all, but we've got some folks from Dell, we've got some folks from Emerson, from USAA, all around the globe. I'm really, really excited about this. And we definitely want you to interact with us. We have set up the chat window. This is a webinar, so it's a one-way street. Go to that chat window, and we're going to have you interact with us. You can ask questions. David and I will both see your questions there in that chat window. If you have comments, because we're going to ask a lot of questions, you go to that little chat window there. All you got to do is go down to the bottom of the screen where it says chat, click that button. You only have an option to send it to the panelists. So you'll see, I think so, maybe the attendees, and we'll see it, we'll be able to respond to it, and we'll interact with you. I want to start with this question. It's an easy one. Where are you dialing in from? We've got people from around the globe. Go to that chat, click on that button, type in your location. I am in Austin, Texas. David, how about you?
I'm joining you from just outside of the Houston area in Katy, Texas. And looking, I see Kate's joining us from Houston as well. Another Texan, Shannon, joining us from Dallas. Janet joining us all the way from the UK.
Nice.
Thames from Nashville. Music City, USA.
Yeah, so we've got folks from all over. So it looks like, so far, it looks like UK is the furthest. We've got La Jolla, California. Greg is in California. And yeah, Janet, I think you win. So far, it looks like you're the furthest in the UK. Oh, no, wait, hold on. Hold that thought.
I think we have a winner. I think we have Ban joining us from Singapore. So
yeah,
very early in the morning.
Ban, what time is it for you? It's like, it's like 2 in the morning. In Singapore. We also have Claudia in Brazil, and we have Ruchata in India, and we've got some folks from Canada. So we've got all around the globe. I'm super excited about this, David. Tell them about what we're going to do.
So in this workshop, we are going to be starting off with talking about some visual mistakes that we see in presentations. From there, we're going to go into having a quick discussion around presentation artifacts. Then we'll move into focus and simplicity. How do we bring focus and simplicity into our slide design? We want to share with you some PowerPoint tips and tricks. And then finally, we're going to wrap up with some visual design examples.
Yeah, David, I think I'm most excited. You are going to share how to use Smartart. And I'll be honest, I've been using PowerPoint for 30 years. Yes, it's been around for that long. I know I don't look that old, but I am. I'm 51. And it's been around forever. And you're going to show us some ways to use Smartart that has gotten so much better in the newest version. And I'm really excited about seeing some of those tips and tricks that we're going to learn. And then we're going to end on this. I want to kind of bring this up because you and I are going to co-host another session on October the 15th. It's called Advanced Visual Storytelling. And all we're going to do for an hour is dive into more PowerPoint tips and tricks. So I'm going to use that as a little teaser for the end of this. So let's go back to the chat window, and I want to hear from everybody. Again, we've got about 100 people. We've maxed out our webinar. I love it. Let's go to that chat window. Tell David and I about some of the visual mistakes that you guys have seen. You're in the audience and you see some things that you're just like, ugh, this doesn't work. What doesn't work? What are you not liking?
At first, Kevin, on the list, I see way too many words on a slide.
Yeah. How many times have we seen that? And David, I'm going to go a step further. Not only do they put too many words on the slide, but then what do they end up doing?
They end up reading every single word. Have you ever seen those presenters that just turn their back to the audience and they're reading from the slide?
Yeah. Brutal. Brutal.
And I'm seeing too many words, small words, no color. I see in the chat panel, horrible. Reading from the slide is the worst.
Yeah. Cody said, I mean, we're seeing a lot of that. Cody said paragraphs. Marcia said, too many words. Inconsistency, Kate said, not only just in terms of fonts and colors and sizes, but you're also saying inconsistent punctuation. And nothing's worse than a misspelled word on a slide.
Yeah, always make sure you run spell check to make sure that you're checking all those words are correct.
How about those crazy busy slides, the ones that are just, so small you can't read the text? This, David, is still one of the worst that we've ever seen.
Yeah, I would agree. That one's tough. We're trying to squint at the screen, trying to see what's going on.
I'm looking for my readers. I go, where's my readers? Because I can't see any of that. I'm going to have to do that. So yeah, all of those things can be absolutely crazy. What are some of yours? Just kind of think back for a second, David. What are some of the things that just drive you crazy when you're in the audience? Things that maybe we didn't see here on this list.
One of my big things is inconsistent fonts and sizes between all of the slides, not throughout the presentation. Seeing those things, just it grates on me. I don't know why.
Yeah, for me, I'm going to go with alignment. That I'll sit there and things are out of alignment, that something's not centered, or they've got three objects across the screen and it's kind of slanted to one side or the other. And then the fonts are not, or the text is not lined up with the picture. So a lot of alignment is going to be some of mine. Yeah, Ruchetta from India is agreeing with that, this inconsistent spacing and alignment. And Hampton is talking about distractions too. So I think the slide itself, Hampton, can be the distractions, as well as sometimes the things that the speakers are doing. Those can be distractions as well. Yeah, the eye charts that Marcia said earlier too. All of these things can be that. So David, as we're going to teach them on how to create simple slides and really focus their audience, one of the pushbacks that we get when we teach this as a workshop, and I just got done teaching it this morning for a group, some in EMEA and in Europe and some in here in the United States, they push back and they say, yeah, that's great, but later my audience is going to want a copy of my deck. So they're going to want to be able to see all of the data that I presented, and I got to put it on the slide, and you and I are going to walk them through some different ways. What are some things that I can do? We call these presentation artifacts. How do we give them a lot of information, but not feel like we have to put it on the slide? What are your thoughts?
We have a couple of different options, different things that we can do to preserve that information for those scenarios where you need to save that information. Maybe if somebody was not able to attend the meeting, or people want to take that information away later on. Well, the first option that we have is to be able to create some sort of a supplemental document. We can create a PDF. We can create a Word document. I know a lot of people like to cut and paste things out of Excel into the slides. Well, we can just provide those things as that supplemental documentation. We can provide our audience with a handout. And I know that there are some organizations that have completely gone away from PowerPoint and they use these supplemental documentation as the takeaways from the presentation, and they don't even use the visual aids.
And David, we're going to do that today. I mean, the handouts, we don't do them up front because we found that when I give everybody a copy, they're already looking ahead. They're three slides ahead of us. So we are going to provide class. We're going to provide everybody a copy of our slides, but it will be done afterward. You'll get a follow-up email with a link to the recording and a copy of our slides. So that'll be coming. That's an example of how we use it. Now, David, I typed into the chat window the 3 answers. Number 1, provide a handout. I love this. Number 2, we could use hidden slides, and sometimes people use them as backup slides, and we're going to talk about that. I want you to kind of walk us through this. I know a lot of people will put things in the back of the deck. My problem with that, my only problem, and I think there's a place for it, is sometimes I struggle with, what is that? There's 10 slides in the backup, in the appendix, and I'm trying to figure out what are they actually backing up. And so I'm trying to make that connection, and I can struggle with it. This is where hidden slides can help us. Tell me about hidden slides and how do I use that feature?
You know, hidden slides are such a great feature that we can use because when we're creating our deck, we can have that supplemental information right next to our primary slide. So that way, if there's a question that comes up that we need to dive deeper and provide that additional information, we can very quickly access it. So when we get into delivering hidden slides or creating hidden slides, you create the slide just like you would any other slide. But then when you go into PowerPoint and you start editing in PowerPoint, what you'll do is you have 2 different options to make a slide a hidden slide. You can right click on that slide and it'll create a drop down menu and you can select hidden slide from that. Or what you can do is you can go up to the view tab or the view on the ribbon bar and select hidden slide from there. So 2 very easy options of being able to create hidden slides. And then the additional bonus in my mind that you have is if you run presenter mode in PowerPoint and you need to go to that hidden slide, all you need to do is hit that G key. It brings up your slide sorter. You click on that hidden slide, but if you don't need it, you just continue clicking through your slide. So very, very easy to utilize that. And that way that information is right next to where it needs to be in the hidden slide.
Yeah, David, I thought I would just quickly demonstrate that. So I love the idea that we can go up to the menu bar. So let's give an example. Slide 17 would be the slide that I want to present because it's clean, it's simple, it's got those 3 points. And then right next to it is the hidden slide that's got all that data. So if I want to hide slide 18, you gave us 2 options. My first option, I right click on that slide. And I go to where it says hide slide. And what that does is puts that transparency over there and puts that little line through it so I can see it's a hidden slide. Or like you mentioned, I can go up to the slideshow menu and here's that toggle for hide slide and I can just click that button. I always go to the slide sorter like you showed originally. But now it's right there in the deck. So when I'm presenting, slide 17 is what I see, the audience sees. Slide 18, when I email that deck out afterwards, has all of that information in there. So that's, I mean, these are some really great things that we can do for our audience. So number 1, we're giving them a handout. Number 2, we're using the hidden slide feature. And then number 3, the notes feature. And let me just look at this really quick, and then I want you to talk us through this. When I'm using the notes, I can pull up this bar at the bottom of my screen, and I can put all the notes down here. So talk about that for a second, because that is a great way to be able to put all the information in there. And it kind of serves as a dual benefit, I think, because it can help me as the presenter remember what I was going to say, but it can also provide the audience my notes when I send this out afterwards. So give me your thoughts on how you use speaker notes.
You know, Kevin, I use those the exact same way. I use that as a presentation artifact, so I can go back and if I ever need to print those, I can print them with notes and give them to whoever needs my slide deck, and they get all of the notes of all the information that I was going to verbally deliver. And then in addition, by putting the notes in there, that gives me my outline, because when I'm in presenter mode, I have a notes section that I can reference to be able to go back and see those items. So it gives me a two for one benefit in using that notes feature.
Yeah, and an additional benefit, and I love this, and I hope you guys are liking, I'm going to back up for a second, and you and I are going to talk about this, David, the morph feature. I love the morph feature inside of PowerPoint. So I can take the slide that we're on, and I'm going to morph it into the next slide. So you'll see that it takes that slide, shrinks it down, and then creates the rest of the slide. We're going to talk about this. Yeah, Marcia said loves morph. Love the morph feature too. Brand new in PowerPoint as of January 2019. They added that to the PowerPoint 365 version. So if you have an earlier version, you won't have morph. But anyway, that's what morph was right there. But I love to be able to go to File Print and print my handouts. And I do want to demonstrate this. I want to share my screen and show you what this looks like. It's super simple to do, but from my screen, I'm going to go to File, and I'm going to go down to Print. And instead of printing the full page slide like we normally would do, I'm going to hover over this one that says Notes Pages. And that's going to allow me to choose the slide that I want to. Let me get to the slide we were on. It's going to allow me to print the slide so it's on the top of the page with all the notes on the bottom of the page. This is one of my favorite ways of sharing my deck with my audience. That way they see the slide that I presented, it's clean, it's simple, and they see all the notes that go with that slide. So for me, this is what I like to PDF and send to people versus sending them the entire deck. So David, we've talked about some different ways of providing that information to our audience. Now we can jump into the simplicity. Let's talk about that. I think sometimes people don't have a point in their presentation, so they struggle with what's the point of how I'm presenting my message, and then how they get to a point on a slide. So we're going to talk about that, and we see a lot of distractions, don't we? So talk about the point.
Absolutely. We have so many distractions out there, and many of you mentioned a lot of the common distractions that we see in the slide decks when we were talking about the poor slide decks. Well, all of those things are those visual distractions to our presentation. So as just an example, we have a quick funny video to show you that shows a great example of a distraction happening. So Kevin, are you ready to go with that video?
Here we go.
So tell me about yourself.
Well, you know, I'm an organized person, somebody who does not leave details out. I'm actually very, very good with groups. Grouper. I've surpassed all my goals in my previous position, my prior job, and your competitor. My personnel under me have surpassed their own goals.
Oh. Get famous at mytalkingstain.com.
I absolutely love that commercial. That it was a Super Bowl commercial, probably about 10 years ago. But I think it's great. It's a great demonstration of distractions in a presentation or a conversation. And how many times do we have distractions that take away from our message? Now, it might not be a literal talking stain, but it could be distractions of misspellings or other things that we discussed in the chat panel from those poor presentations. So what we really want to do is we want to bring focus into what we're presenting. We need to tell our audience what is the point that we're trying to make. So Kevin, how do we bring focus into a slide?
Well, let's go back to that slide that we saw earlier. And you and I agreed, it's probably one of the worst that we've ever seen. And I really hate to say this, but if we had to present it, how are we going to do this? And here's how I would approach it. I would say, here's the big picture. Again, whatever this is, whatever this process might be, here's the big picture group. And then I want to focus them into an area. For example, I'm going to use a yellow transparent oval where your eyes hopefully go down to that lower right corner of the screen, grabs your attention, and then guess what? we're going to drill down into that slide, and we're going to see, or that section, and see exactly what those 5 boxes are. And we don't have the distraction of everything else on the screen. Because David, what happens when I try to deliver the same message focusing on those 5 boxes while all of these other things are on the screen? What ends up happening?
I see the audience's eyes just going everywhere and trying to figure out, what should I be looking at? Where should I be focusing?
And then there's a good chance that somebody, while I'm trying to describe those 5 boxes in the lower right corner, sees something over on the left side of the screen. They're like, well, what do you mean by GTS business management processes? And now we're off track talking about something else. So these yellow transparent boxes will highlight an area, focus us there, and all we're doing is drawing an object. I'm assuming that's not new to our audience. And then I'm going into the formatting of that object, and I'm making it transparent. And so that's how I'm going to do that. David, I'll walk them through that here in 1 second. But let's give them another example. We see all of these all the time where we've got these busy slides. We can highlight an area, drill down, but what's another approach that we could do?
So almost opposite of what you were just talking about, Kevin, in a slide like this, our typical quarterly business review type of slide, what we can do is we can put transparent boxes over the things that we are not covering at that moment. So then by having the brightness in the quadrant that we're covering, now that brings focus to that one area. And then when we move to the next quadrant, we change up those transparent boxes, so we're bringing the focus there. And we just keep moving through all of those different transitions so our audience can see the big picture, but it's very clear on the area that we are covering in that moment.
Yep, so let me do this. Let's walk them through this, and whether it's a yellow transparent oval or whether it's a white transparent box, it doesn't matter. The steps are exactly the same. So let me walk them through that. Let me go back to that really busy slide again. And on this really busy slide, I'm going to go to Insert, Shape, and I'm going to grab that oval. Again, I'm hoping this part is not new for anybody. And I'm going to come down here, and it's not going to be perfect, but I'm going to draw that shape down here to kind of highlight this area. Next, I'm going to turn that shape yellow. So once I've got the box there, I'm going to go to Shape Fill, and I'm going to make it yellow. I'm going to go to Shape Outline, and I'm going to put a little red outline around it. So that's the initial shape. We can't see through it because it's not transparent yet. I'm going to right click on that circle. I'm going to go up here to where it says Format Shape. And then I'm going to open up that right side of the screen, expand the section for fill. And I'm going to go down here to where it says transparency, and I can do one of 3 things. I can click and drag that line. I can use these up down arrows, or I can just come in here and type a number. And here's what I use. When I don't want you to see through it, I use about 20%. You'll notice you can't see through it very well. That works when I want to do those white transparent boxes that we just saw. If I want you to see through it, like I do in this example, I'm going to go to something closer to 80%. And now you can see through it, and that's what that highlights. So I'll close this area, click off of that, and now you can see what we've done. Now, one last step. I'll highlight that object, go up to animations, and I'm going to have that fade in on click. And that's how we set up that particular slide. So David, I'm loving this. We've talked about how to focus the audience, and now we need to talk about how to simplify our slides, because we focus them. Now we need to simplify them because we both see a ton of these show up and throw ups, or what I'll sometimes call the wall of text. So let's talk about this. How can we clean this up? And I want you to walk me through a couple of examples. Let's go with 5 different ways to simplify this.
Absolutely. And these are the typical slides that we see in business presentations, the wall of text, as Kevin put it. Well, one option that we have is to, rather than having all of that text, we simply go to the 4 main bullet points of information, and we add some sort of a graphic for that visual interest.
Yeah, David, One thing I'm excited about, because it's coming up, and I'm going to just tease the audience with this. I want you, because this still is kind of boring to me, and we're going to show them 5 ways. This is the first of 5, and it's my least favorite. But in a few minutes, you're going to show us how to take this simple bulleted list with a picture using Smartart and I'm going to time you, and I'm going to give you 15 seconds to pretty up this slide. Can you do it?
I got it. I can do
15 seconds to use Smartart. So David's going to show us how in 15 seconds to convert a boring bulleted list with a picture into something a little more exciting. So anyway, version 1, I like it, but there's way better options. Keep going. That's number 1. Show us 4 more, David.
Absolutely. So that's the first step. So moving on, we can transition that to 4 of the simple bullet points and give each one a graphic, and we add in a slide title. So that just tells us where we're going there. So that's another option that we can do. This is a Smartart slide. So we have Smartart, and then we've added in the 4 graphics there, the 4 icons there that tie in to our topics. And then another option, it's a different Smartart. We've added in some color now. And you can see we still have our 4 main buckets of information. We have a slide title, but now we've added in that gray background. So it adds some visual interest to it. And then from there, we can just get rid of all the words, and we can just have 4 graphics or 4 icons that tie to our main key point of customer service. All of those are different options that we have. And remember, we are the presenter, not our slide deck. So we are making the visual backup to all of the text that we are verbalizing. So all of these are different things that we can do to go from that wall of text into something that is much more visually appealing and telling that story.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think one of the other things to consider, and I put a couple of things in the chat window there. I personally like number 2, that's got those pictures. It's got a little bit more of that visual pop to it. So I think that kind of looks pretty cool. And then I also put a link that David and I use. It's called thenounproject.com. And it's got over 2 million icons. So I'm going to go back to this slide here that we use these icons. And if you're looking for consistency, that's a key. I don't want different types of icons. I want them to all look like they're from the same family. The Noun Project is one of the ways to do that. It's free. You have to register, and you have access to over 2 million icons. So these are the ways that we'll do this. So I'm super excited about the ideas that we're going to be able to share with you. Now, David, you talked about simplifying, but sometimes that turns into more slides. And so we get this question a lot. And I want to go back to our audience. Again, we've got over 100 people on with us. This is a hard question. What do y'all think the answer to this is? How many slides should I have in my deck? What do you guys think? Let's go to that chat window. Let's hear from the audience. What do you guys think? David, I'm going to put you on the spot here in just a second, but let's hear what some of our answers are. And David, I know that people have struggled with this. So we got A. Robinson that said 3. Rebecca said 9 to 13. Marsha said as many as it takes. Cody said no more than 15. Lente said no more than 20. What do you say, David?
You know, I'm a huge fan of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, so my answer is absolutely 42.
I love it.
42 is the answer.
It is always the answer. 42 is always the answer.
Absolutely.
So, but really, when it comes down to it, and I like the answer from, was that you that said David? Yeah, David.
That's another smart David. It was not me.
We have 2 smart Davids on. We have the one that's co-presenting with me, and we have a David that's one of our audience members who said it depends. And talk us through this, David. What do you mean it depends? That's not a fair coaching. You and I are coaches. And we have to help hundreds of students every year. How do we guide them around these words, it depends?
So anytime I have the answer of it depends, I have to follow that up with it depends on what. And it depends on what is the purpose of our presentation? What are we presenting on? What are we trying to convey to our audience? It depends on our audience. Whoever is in our audience is going to vary how many slides that we need. And then the final thing is, how much time do we have? Because I know my slide deck is going to vary quite a bit depending on whether I have 5 minutes or an hour to present. It varies depending on those different factors. Who are we presenting to? What are we presenting on? And how much time do we have? Now Kevin, we've been talking about just examples of how many slides should we have? Well, I know that you have a great example of taking a marketing slide that had just a lot of information on it and actually increasing the number of slides that we have. So can you show us that example?
Yeah, I want to walk them through this. And this is an example from one of our clients, Dell. And Dave and I talked about this yesterday, and I don't think they're going to have a problem. I know we have some folks on from Dell. And I don't think they're going to have a problem with me sharing this because we're going to be promoting one of their products. So we had a student in our class, and they were presenting on the Dell laptop, the Precision 7740. And this was their single slide that they would present. Now, I want to hear from the group. Dorina likes it because she's laughing. I'm assuming, Dorina, I don't see your email, but I'm assuming you're a Dell employee because she put a smiley face in there. But I want to hear from you guys, just from the group. Where do your eyes go? If this was the single slide that somebody was going to present talking about the Precision 7740, where do your eyes go? Where are you looking if this is the only slide, the one slide in their presentation? So Lynn said the laptop. Marcia said I start to read the stuff on the right. Lenny said the same thing. I'm going over to this text in the blue. So here's what's interesting. I'm seeing a combination of some people who are saying they're reading the text. Robert's ready to jump down and learn about VR and AR and AI. Yep. And then others are liking the picture. Now, one interesting aspect of this, as we're going to walk through this, is I also like to think about where the position of the pictures are. Right now, this laptop is drawing our attention away from the slide instead of into the slide. So when we talk about the number of slides, this was their single slider, their one slider as it's called in the business. Here's the one slider. This individual turned this into 5 slides. And I want you guys to think about how this is telling a story. The title of our webinar is Visual Storytelling. And so how does this turn into a story? Well, it does this. Here's their new title slide. It's got a really big version of that laptop, and it says New Precision 7740. And then using Morph, and I'm going to show that here in just a second because we're going to teach that, they're going to shrink the laptop down, scoot the title over, and then the participant decided to boil down that list of all of those things that were on the right into 4 areas. I hope you agree. I don't feel like it's overwhelming. I felt a little overwhelmed in the one slider. Here it seems simple. It seems clean. And we're able to just walk them through. Now, using what we just showed you with the white transparent boxes, they're covering up those other areas as they then move into the second main item, the third item, and the fourth item, as they're able to drive home those 4 points. So this single slider turned into 5 slides, and I think really drives home the point. Comments, feedback from the audience. Let me hear from you guys. Go to that chat window. Do you like it? And what do you like about it? Let me hear from you. And then I'm going to, while you're doing that, I want to demonstrate Morph. It's really complicated. Let me hear from somebody. What do you think? What do you think of that single slider turning into 5 slides? Yeah, Marcia said, I like it. It was simplified. Jeffin said the same thing. I like it, has a good visual flow. Dorina said, much better. The transitions and the animations really teach us how to call out those key things. She said, teach us that morph thingy. Teach us that cool morph thingy. I love it. So yeah, we're going to walk you through it right now. So let me do that. And then David, when we're done with that, I'm going to have you take back over because we're going to then start talking about some other examples of some things that we can do. And we'll do that. So here we go. Let me share this and then David's going to keep us going here. So I'm going to share the slide. This was the slide that we created. And the next slide in the deck is the one where the laptop gets smaller. Now, in order for you to use Morph, it has to be the same object. So let me show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to copy this laptop. I just hit Control-C to copy it. On the second slide, I'm going to delete it. On the second slide, I'm going to paste it onto the screen. So I've got the same exact large laptop on the screen, and then I'm going to shrink it down. Now, as I shrink it down, I'm going to put it down in here to this corner and scoot it over. So that's all I'm doing. I'm taking the exact same object, or in this case, picture. I'm shrinking it down. I'm going up to my menu bar, and under the transitions menu, I'm going to click on where it says Morph. Morph is going to recognize that it's the same shape, the same object, and it's going to shrink it. So that way, when I go from the title slide to this slide, we'll see that change. We can do this with any object. It doesn't matter what it is. Let me delete these and do it again with something completely different. If we had a large picture, and it doesn't matter what it is, I'm going to just go to Insert, Shape, and I'm going to draw a large circle. If there was a large circle on the screen, actually that was a little too large. How about this? There was this large circle on the screen. I'm going to copy it, paste it onto this new one, and again, shrink it down. When I morph this, you're going to see it goes from the big circle to the small circle. So any object or any picture, as long as it's moving somewhere on the screen, Morph will recognize it and make a smooth transition. I highly encourage everybody to play with it. It is just an awesome way for you to incorporate this into your presentations without getting too fancy and too over the top. So David, let's go back. Let's walk them through some other examples. What are some other things that we could do with the slide decks? As we're trying to take something boring like a bulleted list, what are some things that we could do here with this?
So in this example, a bulleted list, we can, again, make it visual. We can use blocks of different text and to think about our main points that we're trying to cover and create different blocks of information. So as an example, Kevin, if you want to go to the next slide, we take this, and the 3 key points that we're making here are simplify, reduce, and accelerate. So within these, when I go into talking about the additional information, I expand that box out with Morph, and I put in that additional information. So again, it's clear to my audience that we are in the simplify step. I'm talking about all of the additional details. And then when I move into reduces, the simplify shrinks, the reduces grows, and now I'm into that section, and my audience can see that additional information. And then I move into accelerate. So very easy transition to still let my audience see my 3 main key points, but on each step, I'm able to give that additional information.
Yep, I love this. And we have a comment from one of our participants, Shannon Suber. Hey, Shannon, that's my buddy, Shannon. Shannon was asking, does the Morph feature also work with text? And she specifically was asking about the slide titles. And the answer is yes. So as long as it's the same text box, and if it moves to a new position on the screen, changes colors, or changes sizes, the Morph feature will automatically make that transition. So Shannon, that's a great question. Thanks for asking that. And hello, and I hope you're doing well. So David, I want to go back to this because I want to go back to this list of these texts, and I love this feel. It's got this great kind of website feel to it when you're using those drop downs. But let's go back to this bulleted list here. And I want you to demonstrate for us. I'm going to have David share his screen. David, I want you to take something. It's not this example. I know you have another one. I told you I'm going to time you. You're going to have about 15 seconds. I want you to take a boring bulleted list, and I want you to show us how in just a few quick seconds, using Smartart, you could take it to that next level. So if you could, David, walk us through what that looks like here with this example.
So very easy to do. All you need to do is take your text box, highlight the text within the box, right-click on that, And then you're going to go down to convert to Smartart, and you'll see this list pop up. And all of a sudden, now I have all of these live options that change depending on what I want from that bulleted list. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to click on this one, and then I can just move that to where I want it to be on the screen. And all of a sudden we went from just plain old bulleted text to Smartart. So very, very easy to do, and it takes that text to graphical. So very, very simple to do.
And you win. I said 15 seconds, and I think you did it in 7.2 seconds. I love it.
Man, I should have gone for 8 seconds being a guy from Texas.
And then, but what if I don't like that? I mean, those are just bulleted lists. I mean, that's just, you just turned a bulleted list into boxes. What if we want to spice it up even a little bit more? How many options do I have in Smartart?
Oh, you have so many different options. So I'm going to go back a little bit here. We're going to go back to that highlighted list. We can right click on it, and it gives us a suggested list of all of the different things that we can do. But if we don't like any of those, we can go to more Smartart graphics, and then we can choose all of these different options. So we can go to lists, processes, cycles, and so on. All of those. We have over 200 different options within Smartart to use. So many different things to try and see what you like within Smartart. So it's such a great tool to be able to use to take that maybe what we call boring text and make it into something that might be a little bit more graphical.
Yep, absolutely love it. I think that's great. I think you've showed us some really good things. And again, this is a webinar, not a workshop. And if anybody, and I know we've got, again, 100 folks on with us from a lot of different companies, if this sounds like something, it's like, I want to learn more. We've hit the tip of the iceberg. I can absolutely promise you that. We've hit the tip of the iceberg. Come join us for a workshop. And in the workshop, we got a couple things. We are going to dive into this. It's 7 hours if we do an in-person workshop, and it's 8 hours if we do virtual, 4 hours on day one, 4 hours on day two. Takes a little bit more time on the virtual because we have breaks and we're giving you a little additional time to do these, but you're practicing, you're learning from each other, and we, the coaches at iSpeak, are giving you live coaching and feedback on your presentation decks. I just mentioned, David, I just taught this morning, and I think it's life-changing. I know that sounds like a big word, but it's life-changing because we, and I say we, and it doesn't matter what company you're from, spend so much time in our PowerPoint decks that if we can teach you ways to make it better, put some pop or some pizzazz to it, and then teach you faster ways of doing things, we've saved you some time. It can be life-changing. So I love these, David. I love where you've gone. I want to walk them through one other example, and I would like to take them through how to turn shapes into a picture. And David, tell me what this does for you. If we had shapes that were turned into pictures versus just having pictures or just having shapes, what are your thoughts on this?
I love anytime that we can fill shapes with pictures. It just gives a different look and feel to those images rather than them just being the plain square images. So Kevin's going to walk us through how to do this within PowerPoint. Very simple to do. So I'm going to go ahead and close my camera so you have a little bit more of a screen to view. So Kevin, walk us through this.
Yeah, so what I did here initially was I just dropped these square pictures on these circle images, and it doesn't look good. It just doesn't have that same pop. So I'm gonna go to the next level this time, and I'm gonna grab this lady, and again, grab your pens. I hope you're taking some notes on this. I hope you get some hand cramps from our webinar today because we wanna give you so many tips and tricks that you can't keep up. I'm gonna take this lady, and I'm going to cut her. So Control X to put her onto my clipboard. I'm going to click on that first circle, right click, and go down to where it says Format Shape. This is the exact same place we just were when we made that box transparent earlier. So I'm going to Format Shape. I'm going to expand this section for fill. This is where we did the transparency earlier. And I'm saying I want to change the fill of this shape into a picture, and I just choose picture right here. Now, it defaults to whatever the last thing was on your clipboard. That's why it turned into that image right there. That's not what I want. right here it says picture source. Is it going to insert it from something on my hard drive or somewhere on the web, or from my clipboard, which is where I had copied or cut that lady? So when I click on clipboard, that circle turns into that lady. That's it. Let me do it again with the guy. So I'm going to grab this guy on this orange circle. I'm going to cut him. He's on my clipboard now. I click on the orange circle, right click, go to format shape. That's what opens up this right side of the window. I'm going to click on picture and then clipboard. Grab this lady. I'm going to cut her, click on that circle, click on picture, click on clipboard, and there we go. I've got these 3 circles that I've now converted into pictures. Ruchetta from India was making a comment in the chat window, only to you and me, David, that says, can you also crop to a shape? And the answer is yes. You could actually crop a picture and turn it into a shape. That would be another option. Let me do that super fast. So I'm going to grab this lady over here. Let's move this out of the way. I'm going to grab this lady. I've got a picture. I'm going to go up to picture format on the menu bar. I'm going to drop down my crop menu, and there's this option right here that says crop to a shape. And so if I wanted to turn her into a circle, I could click on the circle, and I've just cropped the picture into a shape. In my personal opinion, it's 6 of 1. They both go to the same place. There's 2 different ways to get there. So Ruchetta from India, I hope that answers your question or comment that you made there in the chat window. So
Kevin, that is such a great comment, because a lot of the things that we're showing here in PowerPoint, there are multiple ways to do things in PowerPoint. So we're just giving one example, but to that point, there are multiple different ways to do a lot of these things in PowerPoint, and you develop your own workflows and your own preferences of how to get these things done. So it's all about learning the program and getting more comfortable in all of these different tools.
Well, David, as we're going to transition, let's kind of walk them through some concepts, because sometimes when we are stepping back, helping people redesign their slides, they're like, I don't know where to start. And one of the places to start is to think about, is just text, just a picture, or some combination, the foundation of where you want to go. I just want you to plant some ideas. Give me one example of what does it mean when you say just text, one example of a picture, and one example of a combination. And then I want to close out with an example that brings together storytelling.
Absolutely. So the first option of just having text in a picture. We're not talking the bulleted list of text that we've shown you as maybe some less desirable examples. We're talking about having just simple phrases on there, such as $130 billion is what is spent on training annually worldwide. So we're really emphasizing that large number for effect in just using text. Another example would be going to just a picture. So we can take just simply a picture that graphically shows something that we are talking about. So if we are demonstrating the touchscreen features on a new laptop, maybe we just show a picture of somebody reaching out and touching that laptop. Or we can finally combine the two, and we can have text and pictures. So as an example, we could have a picture of somebody and we are, or of a person that we are quoting them. So we put the quote on the screen, and we show a picture of them on the screen. So lots of different options there of ways that we can have just text, just a picture, or a combination of text and a picture. But all of these things just make your slides much more graphically appealing and appeal to the audience in telling that visual story.
Yeah, and one of the things and I want to ask you about this, David, because you and I were just talking about this yesterday in terms of getting the images. And we think about the places, and one of the first places I always think of is, I'll just go to Google Images. But we have a caution, a major caution that we need to warn people about. And what's the issue? What's that caution with Google Images?
It is all about copyrights. You do not want to grab an image that is owned by somebody else that you do not have permission to use, because there have been people that have gotten in trouble for that. So you want to make sure that you are selecting imagery that has the correct usage rights. So if you have a company intranet that you have imagery on the company intranet, first and foremost, use that. That's what the company has already paid for. But then from there, there's a lot of different sources that we can go to. You can go to Shutterstock and Getty Images and buy imagery. You can purchase the rights to imagery. There's a lot of different sources that you're seeing there on the screen to be able to do that. But one of the best things is within Google, you can filter your image searches to look to sort those images by usage rights. So that is such a great feature within Google to make sure that you're getting images that are going to be safe for you to use, or they'll also tell you who owns that image, so you can go through the process of purchasing those image rights.
And you and I were just talking about, they changed the Google search, and I really like it, to where we can now filter out some of those copyrighted images, or at least let it be known to us when they are copyrighted. There's a little tag that hovers over the picture to let us know. And I think for all of us, that should be a red flag to say, wait a minute, stop. Before I copy that picture and before I drop it into my deck, should I do this? Will I be putting myself or my organization at risk? And so that's definitely, I love that caution. And I love those sites on the right there. I like those free sites that people can go to, the Unsplash, the Free Pick, and Pixels. Again, registration required, but you can get pictures that you can use. You've got to give copyright images to the author or the photographer. Let them know that you've given them the credit for using their pictures. And so these are some of the things that we want to think about. So David, I'm going to provide an example, and then we're going to talk about some next steps about what we're going to do. So as we're moving here and transitioning to a visual story, and that's what I want to show, a visual story. And then David, I want you to kind of talk us through what's next, and October 15th being one of those things that's next. So as I'm walking them through this example, this is not the worst slide I've ever seen, but it's a slide that's got a lot of information on it. And the information is up on the top. It says a poor credit score is going to cost you more. It talks about an example of you bought a $20,000 car with a 5-year loan. With poor credit, with excellent credit, here's what the difference is. You're actually paying $3,000 more for the same car, whether you have good credit or bad credit. And then at the very bottom, there's a little note that says the money you save you could use to go on vacation. So this is the generic, boring slide. How do we turn this into a story? Well, we tell the story, and that it truly is that. The story is, oh, I've had my eyes on this Ford Focus, yellow, my favorite color. So you're telling a story as you paint the picture of the car, and we see it. And the sticker price on the car, guess what? $19,890. It's perfectly within my budget. That's awesome. I go check my credit. I find out that my credit rating, based on where I'm at, is either going to provide me a 10% credit, a 10% interest rate, or a 5% interest rate, making a difference of $3,010. That's a huge difference. So before I go buy that car, I'm going to go work on my credit, because that $3,000 could be used for me to go on a awesome vacation, which, by the way, I'm doing next week as I'm going down to the beach. So there's my $3,000 vacation because I had better credit. So let's go to this, and I want to show the example, David, as I'm sharing this, is we took one slide. Give me 1 second here. I'm going to pull up the other slide. I'm going to take one slide, and I'm going to turn it into 5 slides. As you'll see here on the screen, that one slide up there in the upper left was the original single slider. And I turned it into 5 slides that now tells the story of the same information, hopefully creating a much more engaging presentation and keeping our audiences focused during that message versus the same old that we see in presentations. So that is an example of visual storytelling. And David, what's next? I think I'm most excited I'm most excited about where we're going next, and that's going to be you and me next month, October the 15th. Tell me about it. What are we doing?
So this is going to be Visual Storytelling 2.0 or Visual Storytelling Advanced. We are going to be taking a deeper dive into visual storytelling, sharing with you more tips and tricks into how to improve our visual storytelling. Once again, October 15th of this year. So about a month from, exactly a month from now. It should be a great webinar. If you all can attend, we would love to have you join us for part 2 of our visual storytelling webinar.
Yeah, I'm going to type in the chat window. There's the web address where they go to register and where all of the iSpeak webinars are listed. Now, that is a hidden link. So if you go to just the iSpeak website, you're not going to find the link to this. This is a hidden link. It's only for people that have been invited to these webinars. So you can invite your coworkers, you can invite your friends, but it's by invitation only. And so there's the link. You can come back and see it. Now, yes, we want them to come join us for that. Yes, we want to make sure that they're going to be here. But what else can they do, David?
So you can connect with us. You go to iSpeak.com. If you're interested in hearing more information about our paid webinars, any of our virtual classes, any of our in-person classes, you can reach out to us at info@iSpeak.com. You can also check out our podcast that's available on our website that one of our buddies, Todd, hosts. If you want to get an example of all of the different classes that we offer, Kevin just pulled that up on the screen. So if you're interested in getting any information on that, reach out to our rock star, Dara, for more information on that. She will be happy to take care of you in any way to be able to get your questions answered about any of our workshops or webinars. Dara is a wonderful resource.
Yeah, definitely. And David, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Which is your favorite out of all these classes? Now, I'm not saying just from a teaching standpoint, but really even from an audience perspective, which one has had the most impact for you in terms of the information and how you use it?
I absolutely love tools for influencing. How do we gain alignment with the group around us, whether we have formal leadership or informal leadership? How do we influence those around us? That is absolutely my favorite course.
Good. And one of mine that I use all the time is that spontaneous presentations. And how many times are all of us on the spot, thinking on our feet? I've been asked a question in a meeting. I didn't know I was presenting today. I don't have slides. And all of a sudden, I got to think on my feet. We're going to dive into the process of how to do it and get to practice. And like you said, anybody's interested, reach out to Dara Kukla. She is an absolute rock star. And we are really glad to have her on our team. So David, I've enjoyed this. Thank you so much for co-hosting this with me.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thoughts for our group?
I just want to say thank you to the team. So thank you all so much for joining us. We greatly appreciate you spending the last hour with us. And Kevin, I'll leave it to you for some parting thoughts.
Yep, I just want to say thanks, everybody. We look forward to seeing you guys in a future webinar and hopefully in one of the iSpeak workshops. So everybody have a great rest of your day. Continue to stay safe. It's your show now, so what's it gonna be? 'Cause people will tune in. How many train wrecks do we need to see before we lose touch? We thought this was